Welcome to this episode of Eureka. We are going to have a very interesting conversation with the guest today. The guest today is Dr. Prafulla Kumar Behera, Associate Professor of Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. What's so important about him? I'm sure all of you would have heard about the so-called God particle. The God particle or Higgs boson was discovered in an experiment in CERN. And he was part of a team which led to that discovery, or the data which was collected and the process that took place over there. We are going to have a very interesting conversation, but before that, let's take a quick look at his brief profile and then we will continue our conversation.
Dr. Prafulla Kumar Behera is one of the scientists across the world whose contribution has led to the important discovery of Higgs boson particle. The boson is key to our concept of matter, as it could explain why particles have mass. Dr. Behera completed his early education from Utkal University from Odisha and after that went to Japan for his PhD. Before working on the Higgs boson, he worked on the ATLAS experiment at CERN, Geneva, Switzerland. Presently, Dr. Behera is working as Associate Professor in IIT-Madras and has been tirelessly working in the field of particle physics.
Welcome to this episode of Eureka, and thank you sir being with us. It's very interesting.
It's my pleasure.
Let me start with this question.
Yes, sir.
God particle. Why do people call it as God particle?
Well, initially it was not God particle. It is a Higgs boson because of Professor Peter Higgs theory. And it happened, the change happened late 90s actually, when Professor Lederman wrote a book on Higgs boson, and there was a media gathering and people asked why so important this particle, and he just say, and that becomes a God particle actually.
He kind of said to the press that it's a goddamn particle and
Yes,
we are all searching for it.
Exactly.
You know, I mean,
So
and
the
the press kind of shortened it to God particle.
Exactly.
That's how.
That is
And
how.
it has nothing to do with God.
No.
Yeah,
Absolutely
very
not.
interesting. Very interesting. You were part of this team,
Yes.
which kind of led to this final discovery of the Higgs boson,
Yes.
which is billed as one of the major success stories in the recent past in physics.
Yes.
You were part of a team called ATLAS, right?
Yes.
Can you tell us about what is this ATLAS?
Yeah. I was part of ATLAS before joining IIT-Madras. So ATLAS and CMS are two same purpose experiment, and my involvement was in ATLAS through US universities. I was a research scientist at University of Iowa,
Okay.
and working for silicon pixel detector development.
Silicon pixel detector development. Okay.
Yes, that is one of the major detector as a part of ATLAS experiment, and I spent more than 5 years.
Very
there.
interesting. Very interesting. But see, most of us have read, for example, in our school textbook about this Wilson's cloud chamber.
Yes.
In fact, whenever we study something about fundamental particles,
Yes.
the school textbook describes about the Wilson cloud chamber and how, for example, in the midst of the cloud,
Yes.
you can see the track of the
Trajectory,
particle
yes,
trajectory.
yes.
How is this, your new detector is different from that? Why do we need something like this if there is a cloud chamber?
Yeah. So the purpose is the same. You look at the trajectory of the particle, measure the momentum of the particle, is a charged particle. The difference is in cloud chamber you can see few charged particle,
Okay.
but if you have thousands of particles coming from one point, and you need very goodness granular detector which can separate the each track, so that you can separate and you can reconstruct thousands of tracks. So it's like looking at the very finer position resolution.
How does this silicon detector actually work?
The principle is the same as a ionization principle. And let's say you have one granular is a blob of silicon, and then what happens when charged particle pass through the silicon, it will ionize the silicon.
How big is that silicon granular?
A granular, if I say pixel detector, the size is 50 micron by 100 micron, thickness is 250 micron.
250 micron would be
thickness,
the
yes, thickness of
that
yes.
thing. So it's something like a very small sugar cube.
Yes, yes.
I mean, of course, sugar cube would be kind of multi-time bigger, but then it will be very, very, very,
Very,
small.
very
right?
small.
Okay, when a charged particle goes through that silicon, let's say,
Sensor,
cube,
yes.
what happens actually?
Basically, it knocks out the electron,
Okay.
ionize this. Then what happens actually, this electron has to be collected through your electronics as analog charge. And that basically gives you the position of the particle going through that position. So
Okay.
if you have 3 layers, you get 3 points, and you can join the 3 tracks and 3 points and see this is the trajectory of the particle. And if you have a magnetic field, then charged particle will bend, that will give you the momentum and charge of the particle.
Very interesting. How many such granulas would be there in a typical detector?
So if I talk about Atlas detector, and if you look at the Atlas detector, it's a 3-storied building detector,
3-story building.
3-storied high building, and the total number of electronics channel we read out is 88 million.
88 million.
Out of that, the silicon pixel detector, which is very small stage, very central part of the detector, it has 80 million channel.
So 80 million out of 88 million is the silicon.
Silicon.
And you are part of that building the
that detector.
Very interesting. That was before you came to
Coming
IIT.
to IIT-Madras.
Very interesting, very interesting. After coming to IIT, I'm told right now you are also trying to build some detectors and testing it for Indian Neutrino Observatory.
Yes.
Can you tell us how is this detector different?
So, India-based neutrino observatory want to detect neutrino, and neutrino is a neutral particle.
Yeah.
It has to interact with the material, then it will produce another charged particle called muon,
Yeah.
and you want to detect that.
But whereas, for example, the silicon detector,
Yes.
actually the muon comes out or a
Yes,
charged particle comes out, so it's a direct one. I mean, there's a slight difference here.
Yes,
Okay.
only.
So in this detector laboratory, what actually you do? You are actually constructing the detectors which will be
Yes.
finally placed in the...
So, finally, if we want to place the detector, if you know that we want to place 2 meter by 2 meter glass RPC with 30,000. In the lab, like our lab, it's very difficult to handle 2 meter by 2 meter. So basically, we have to produce the proof of principle and characterize all the criteria for the detector, then it goes to industry.
Okay.
For example, now we are making 400 RPC at Saint-Gobain in Chennai.
Okay. I'm told that you are now leading a team in Indian Institute of Technology, Madras,
Yes.
for contributing to the CERN.
Yes, CMS experiment.
Now you are not looking at Atlas, but then CMS.
CMS.
What is the CMS?
CMS is almost the same as Atlas detector. It has silicon pixel detector, it has silicon strip tracker, it has calorimeter, it has muon, exactly same as Atlas, except here you have high granular tracker, where Atlas has a slightly different, silicon plus something. So there is small difference, but purpose is exactly same, to look for similar event will be produced, because same proton-proton will be colliding inside Atlas and CMS. So you don't orient anything except you are changing one set of people. You are working for 5 years, you move to others, and you make your friendship, because before they were my competitor.
Okay.
Now they are my friend.
Okay. Yeah. So, is India a major partner in the new CMS?
So, in CMS, when I joined in CMS in 2014, IIT-Madras became a full member, and our number of collaborating institutes are increasing, and now it's a double. Now we have around 50 PhD physicists working for CMS. It's good. Number of institutes are also increased. And what I can say that the day we joined, what will happen after that? Now we really plan to contribute a bigger way to CMS upgrade activities, because present detector is running, and what will happen next 10 years we can plan, because if you want to contribute to the detector development, you really need to understand the detector first, then you build.
Very good. We are having a very interesting conversation, but we need to take a very small break. We'll take a very small break. Don't go away. After the break, I'm going to ask him a very interesting question. He has had about 25 years of research experience. What does he think has touched his heart? What has moved him emotionally? Don't go away. We'll take a very short break. Welcome back to Eureka. We are having a very interesting conversation with Dr. Prafulla Kumar Behera. You're associate professor from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. We're having a very interesting conversation, and I told our viewers that I'm going to ask you this question. You have had about 20-25 years of research
Yes,
experience.
yes, sir.
In this 25 years, which work of yours has moved you emotionally?
The first time when I started my research career in Japan, I never knew whether we'll find something interesting or not.
Okay.
But I worked. Then after working a few years, and we really measured the CP violation, what was the purpose of building this detector, and it took two major experiments, which is Bell and Babar in US. The two different experiments like CMS and Atlas.
Okay.
So later stage of my career, I work in Babar also,
Okay.
and we confirmed that. So 2007, Nobel Prize was given to Professor Kobayashi and Masakawa for giving this theory, and I was really puzzled that you can be part of this big innovation and contribute to the science actually.
Very interesting. You said something about CP violation.
Yes.
Can you sort of tell in such simple way what is the CP violation means?
Yeah, so this is
We know violation about jumping a red light or
Yes.
things like that, but
Yes.
what is this?
And so basically there are a certain principle all the particles has to obey. And if you go back to the evolution of universe, and as of now we know the principle is a Big Bang.
Yeah.
And after the Big Bang, it was full of energy, and you know energy can be converted to mass, and mass can be converted to energy. Is
Yeah,
the
yeah,
Einstein's theory.
Yeah.
And when energy converted to mass, it will be equally mass and anti-mass, or matter and antimatter.
So basically, as far as our current understanding goes, when the universe was formed,
Yes.
or rather originated,
Yes.
whatever way you want to call it, that is during the event of Big Bang,
Yes.
there was only energy.
Yes.
There was no mass.
Yes.
So that energy became mass,
Mass.
and antimatter.
Anti-mass.
Matter and antimatter.
Electron, positron.
Okay.
It's like
Yeah,
that.
Fine.
Yes.
Then what happens?
Then today, after around 14 billions after the evolution of this universe, we search for antimatter. What happened to that antimatter? We don't find the signature of antimatter anywhere in there.
Okay.
And what is the reason is this particle, some of the particles did not obey the law, and this is called charge parity violation. And
Okay.
slowly asymmetry built up and antimatter disappear.
Okay, so basically the question was like why there is matter and there is no antimatter.
Antimatter today.
And this CP violation theory kind of explained
Explains-
why
Yes.
this happened.
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that's a very, very interesting principle. That's one. You are also credited with your discovery of a particle,
Yes.
omega C prime.
Yes, sir.
What is it? Where did you discover? What's its significance?
So when I was part of Babar experiment as a postdoc with University of Pennsylvania, I was working with a student, and there are many particles you have to discover. If you look at the particle data book, you have hundreds of particles that have been discovered, and there is a baryon. You have meson and baryon. Baryon is proton is a baryon made of 3 quarks,
Okay.
and there is a model which tells you can pull all the baryons in the mass and spin, and one of the particles was missing called omega C prime for
Okay.
30 years.
So it's like, for example, that jigsaw puzzle.
Yes, Higgs
One piece is missing.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
So that was missing and nobody found. And I worked with a student and I used my knowledge in previous experiment in Bell, and we worked very hard. Data was not enough. We could barely make more than 5 sigma, which is threshold to make the discovery.
Okay.
So we could make it, and when we made, and collaboration decided that it has to be scrutinized heavily because nobody found, and we were the first person to say.
Okay.
And I would say that it was amazing that you defend the community and publish in PRL. And after a year and a half, and our next collaboration is Bell, they also observed that particle. I was relieved that, okay, this is real.
So when two people observe the same, two groups,
Yes.
actually rival groups actually observe the same particle, then you can be more confident,
Confident
that
that-
it is really there. The
Yes.
evidence is strong.
Strong.
That is very interesting. Recently, India has signed an agreement with CERN.
Yes.
What is it? I mean, what is this agreement like?
This agreement makes India an associate member of CERN. Before, India was observer state,
Okay,
like US.
Mm-hmm.
And now, with the agreement, we can directly work with CERN.
Uh-huh.
Before that, we are only having a relation with CERN through the collaboration like CMS or ALICE.
So basically, earlier we were contributing to setting up 1 or 2 experiments.
Yes.
But whereas now we will be partner in the whole CERN
Yes.
program itself. I mean,
Yes.
at least as associate partner,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Yeah. Very interesting. How many people are there in the CERN? I mean, how many countries are there in the CERN, and how many countries are there as associate members?
So there are 3 associate members now. One is Turkey, Pakistan, India,
Okay.
and all European countries are member state.
So the CERN itself is actually a European program.
European,
So
yes.
now they have, other than Europe, they have only
3.
accepted 3 of us as
Yes.
associate members.
Yes.
Very interesting. So what are we going to do as being an associate member? What are we thinking of planning to do in CERN?
So up to now, mostly a few institutes used to do collaboration with CMS or ALICE experiment, and we do some detector development with the collaboration with other institutes.
Okay.
Being associate member, it opens a bigger window for India to contribute as well as take
Okay.
the knowledge. And I would say that now in India we have many premier institute in technology,
Okay.
and CERN is basically a technical hub, I would say, where a lot of innovation happens, and you can be part of the innovation. You can share now.
Okay. So what would, I mean, your opinion would be the benefit to, let's say, Indian industry
Yes.
out of this kind of agreement with the CERN?
So I think the benefits is how we take actually. It is
Okay.
not given to us.
Recently, this signing of agreement with CERN, where we have become an associate member, what kind of benefit it will bring to our Indian industry?
Yes. The first one is there are some of the technology which are not available in India. If we do research, we have to purchase from outside.
Yeah.
And our main purpose is make in India.
Okay.
So for that purpose, we have to enable our industry to do those manufacturing in India. And CERN, being the center, has a lot of expertise in that technology. For example, recently we wanted to contribute to gem detector, which
Okay.
is another technology, and it was told to CERN that we would like to make in India, and ALICE and CMS both collaborators together talked to an industry in Bangalore, and they could fabricate in India.
Okay.
And now they are producing in India.
This
is one.
product right
Yes.
now. So which means that through this collaboration with CERN,
Yes.
maybe we will be having access to certain high technology,
yes.
which is being collaboratively developed elsewhere. So
Yes.
kind of an international collaboration
Exactly.
for
Yes.
that will be available.
Yes.
That's a very interesting thing. But we need to take a very small break now. Don't go away. We are going to ask him a very interesting question after the break. You know, when he joined his college, on the very first day of joining his college, there was a big shock. We are going to discuss about it after the break. Don't go. Welcome back to this episode of Eureka, and we are having a very interesting conversation with Dr. Prafulla Kumar Behera from Indian Institute of Technology, Madras. Before the break, I was telling our audience that
Yes.
on the very first day of you going to the college, you had one of the biggest shock in your life.
Yes.
Can you tell us about that incident?
It's not a first day, it's a first year actually. When you go to the college, being in science, you need a lot of money for
Yeah.
studying. And that year, my father was hospitalized because he was a driver.
Okay.
And there is
He was a driver in a
private
bus.
bus.
Okay.
And because of early stage of accident, he was having a lot of thing and
Okay.
and he come out and he was hospitalized, and I realized no money can be given for my study, and that was the biggest shock in my life. And
So which means that it's not only that your higher education is threatened,
yes,
and with maybe the sole breadwinner in your family,
yes,
that as a eldest son, perhaps you are also burdened with taking care of the family.
yes.
How did you manage it?
At that time, I have thought about many different aspects. Going to a shop working there.
Okay.
And I thought this is not the best thing I can do.
Mm-hmm.
Then I realized I can teach actually.
You can teach.
Teach.
Okay.
So I was good in math and science.
Mhm.
So I could get a few students who were in high school or so I could teach and started earning money, and that is the only way I knew how to earn money. Maybe that was helping me to stick to study as
Right.
well.
It's very interesting. Actually, if one reads the life story of Einstein,
Yes.
in one point of time, he was also taking tuitions,
Yes.
essentially to earn money because he had no other way of earning his survival. So after doing all this hardship,
Yes.
you studied in India.
Yes.
And then you got an opportunity for doing your PhD in Japan.
Yes.
India, you come from a remote village, not to, from a well-to-do family
Yes,
with little means, and you went to Japan. It should have been a very great cultural shock, is it not?
Yeah. Yes. The first thing is, you know that anything happened to you, you cannot come back immediately.
Yeah.
So you go means you are going at least for a year. Then only you can take a break to come. And one shock was, I remember working in the lab, and around 6:30 or 7, one of my colleague from Korea who was working, he told me there is a party of the group. Why don't you join? So I went to the upstairs, and first time I saw people from many different countries: Australia, Russia, US, Korea. So everybody together having party. So I joined, and to my surprise, everybody is eating, and there is many different of food which I never thought of eating.
Okay.
And I could find only chicken, something to eat, and then I was thirsty to drink, and everybody was drinking. There was no water at all, and there was one Coke bottle. It was finished.
Okay.
So I asked my supervisor, where is water? He told me, go there, there is a box, you grab it. So I went there, I saw there is a full of can of beers actually.
Okay.
And I told him, there is no water, sir. He said, there is water. I said, there is beer, sir. He said, beer is water. I said, sir, I never took this thing in my life. Then he got surprised and he clapped, and everybody was pinned of silence. He told, look, this young person who came to Japan to do PhD, and he has not taken alcohol. And let's celebrate. You should start alcohol if you want to do PhD. You see, everybody has PhD here. Without alcohol, you cannot do this. Start today. But I did not. I stick to my thing. So I left. I went to my room, drink water, and I kept that. Even I left Japan. My supervisor, the last day, he told me, lot of Indians come here without alcohol, and when they leave, they go with alcohol. You are the only person who stick to that.
Stick to that. Okay. Very interesting.
Still I am.
So after your studies in Japan,
Yes.
you had also a long stint of in US, right?
Yes, yes.
So what all you did in US?
So when I finished my PhD, even my thesis, it was very interesting thesis. It was one of the challenging topic. I never knew. One of my colleague who is renowned in theory, he appreciated my work.
Okay.
Then I got many offers from US. I got offer from Maryland, Colorado, UPenn. So I joined University of Pennsylvania as a postdoc and working in Stanford. And there I work in the Babar experiment, working on the high-level trigger, doing data analysis for 5 years.
Okay.
Before I moved to University of Iowa as a scientist, there my journey started to Switzerland.
Switzerland.
And that, yes.
Okay. That's where, I mean, you spent quite a bit of time along with CERN.
CERN.
In the CERN. In the CERN, when you were there,
Yes.
what kind of activities you were involved in?
So at that time, we were building the detector and testing the detector. It was not, it was everything open, and the timeline was so tight, and you have to work with 3,000 physicists.
Okay.
Before I worked with 300 physicists in Bell, then 600 physicists in Babar, now 3,000 physicists.
Okay.
So you have to manage all the time, and you have to be integrated into the group who are different country people are working together. And I was in the silicon pixel detector because I was part of associated with the US. Otherwise, you are not accessing this technology.
Okay.
And I spent testing of silicon detector, commissioning of the detector, data analysis. So it gave me really insight into how the experiment starts from scratch.
Okay. What is the use of doing such research on, fundamental particles?
Yes.
What do we get by knowing what are the particles who are there, what is inside a proton, what happens when two protons collide? What do we get out of that?
So there is two things. We have to see the human being always curious.
Yeah.
That we cannot stop it. And our curiosity to know where we come from, that drives the fundamental science.
Okay.
Then the question is what we are getting out of it. The flip side of this research is you need high technology for developing detector, everything. So on the way you develop this thing and that can be used for the society.
Okay.
But like the one you might aware of, this WWW, World Wide Web was one. Second one is now grid computing, which we are using vastly, and that might be next thing will come to the market.
They will, like a WWF,
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it may become a
Yes.
world level new technology for
Yes.
computer communication.
Yes.
Very interesting. Another friend of mine was also pointing out that almost with every step in our understanding of particle physics, we have also developed medical imaging.
Yes.
Right from X-rays to CT scan,
Yes.
and with our more detectors and more, maybe we will be able to get a better medical imaging which may provide us life
So
support.
yeah,
right?
that comes from our silicon technology, and the pixel detector is nothing but you are really taking the picture actually, and that is a dual purpose. That is why we do not have access to this technology.
Okay.
That can be used other than your fundamental science research.
For like a medical imaging and
Yes,
things of that
yes.
kind. That's a kind of.
That you can.
You were born in a small village. You studied in what might be called as backwaters, one small kind of a university, not very well known outside.
Yes.
How did you get passionate about research? How did you land up being a scientist? That too, having an opportunity to work in a big place like CERN.
So actually, when you are born in a small family, I would say you do not have any ambition to do. You cannot, because you don't know how to achieve it.
Okay.
If you don't know how to achieve, there is no point of making ambition and telling I want to be like this. So for when you are born in a small family or this thing, this is taken out by birth.
Okay.
You create that actually. So as you go, you look at your pros and cons and situation, adopt. Do not bypass anything, and whatever the destination will take you, this is good for you.
Okay.
And you try to accept that actually.
Very interesting. We had a very, very interesting conversation, and you are embarking on a very major effort where India is being put into the world map of fundamental research by being part of the CERN.
Yes.
And you are going to be a very important person in that team. So, from all our viewers and from Rajya Sabha Television and Vigyan Prasar and CSIR NISATs, we thank you for being with us and sparing your time here. Thank you. Thank you for being with us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's my pleasure.
Yeah. And thank you, viewers. We'll meet next week with another guest and a very interesting conversation. Keep watching Eureka.